Africa Business News, proudly sponsored by EY.
Coming up on Africa Business News. Nigeria's national elections are postponed. Trade volumes drop in Kenya since the reintroduction of the capital gains tax. And highlights from the 2015 mining Indaba. Stay tuned.
Africa, it is huge, it is diverse, and its business landscape fascinating and dynamic. And that's our business here on your favorite weekly African business stop. Bonnie Tunya brings us the latest from East Africa. We'll hear from Christine Mundo here in Johannesburg and Christy Cole Popola in Lagos. We'll also be chatting to Svetlana Doneva at the mining Indaba currently underway in Cape Town. My name is Victor Homoiswan, and this is the Africa Business News. Bonnie, I'm going to take you to task today, seeing you have recommended Mumia sugar in our stock pick feature in the past, because I keep on seeing disturbing headlines about East Africa's largest sugar producer. But first, tell us about the standoff between Kenya Revenue Authority and stockbrokers over what? Capital gains tax, I guess. Is it factually correct that since the reintroduction of this tax this year, trade volumes have dropped 70% on the stock exchange?
Victor, the Kenya Revenue Authority has failed to seal a deal with the stockbrokers over the capital gains tax. Now, this is despite the taxman seeking time for negotiations. The parties will now continue with the case filed by the stockbrokers, as the two could not agree on the implementation of this particular law that will see the brokers remit taxes on behalf of their clients. Now, stockbrokers, during the mention of the case before a High Court last week, sought to have the court issue temporary orders barring the taxman from demanding the taxes under the new law. Now, they say that they will be at loss when if they will be compelled to remit just about 20% of the monies by February this year. Also, stockbrokers had told the court that trade volumes at the NSE had dropped by almost 70% since the introduction of the capital gains tax this year.
Now let's get back to that Mumia sugar story. You chatted briefly about it last week. How big is Mumia sugar, both as a sugar producer and as a company listed on the stock exchange? But most of all, why does it find itself in the middle of a sugar import scandal and what seems like a governance lapse? I need an idiot's guide to Mumia's sugar, please.
Victor, the story of Mumia's sugar is not a sweet one, and it is characterized by deep after-sale discounts offered by selected distributors, flawed procurement, weak financial controls, and importation of sugar that can be prime reasons that could drive Mumia's sugar to its early grave. And management's approval allowed Mumia's to sell its sugar below cost, setting the miller on a path to self-destruction. And Victor, the company that reported just about 2 billion shillings in net profits in the past year and paid over 600 million shillings as corporate taxes in its best years, is now a pale shadow of its former self. And the sad story of Mumia's, despite the government commitment for a bailout, is the optimism that is built on several factors. First is that Mumia's accumulated debts to just up to the tune of 6 billion Kenyan shillings. And secondly, the accumulated losses are fast wiping away the capital, and jittery shareholders have already ditched the stock. So really, it is tough days. The stock share price has been up and down. So we'll keep an eye on Mumia's sugar in the coming days, looking at exactly how this will pan out, Victor.
Well, thank you, Bonnie Tunya, coming to us from Nairobi, Kenya. We're joined by Christine Mundo here in Southern Africa next. We're still on Africa Business News. There's persistently high growth in the property sector in Namibia and a new gold refinery to be built there. We're going to be chatting with Christine Mundo about that in a bit. But first, Svetlana Doneva is on the line from the mining Indaba in Cape Town, dubbed Africa's largest mining event and the world's largest mining investment conference. Svetlana, share with us some of the conversations taking place there this year, as well as the highlights, please.
Hi, Victor. The conference started yesterday. Today is the first official big day of meetings and presentations for most of the major mining producers and ministers from around Africa and around the world. One big announcement that we have heard this morning is South Africa's National Resources Minister gave the keynote address at 8 o'clock in the morning, and he announced that the government would be establishing a national champion of mining. Now, this is basically going to involve the disposal of assets by private companies which are exiting the country. They will have to dispose of their assets in a way that allows for black economic empowerment and community involvement. So, for example, Anglo American, when it disposes of assets, it will have to sell them to a company which is approved by the Department of Mineral Resources. The minister also assured investors on policy certainty in the South African mining space, and also addressed the issue of electricity shortages in South Africa. He said that one of the solutions in which we will have to deal with the electricity shortages currently on the way, which are affecting the mining sector, is by allowing more independent power producers to come onto the grid. And the minister also said that the government would not be shy to get involved in any kind of labor conflict which may occur in South Africa.
Well, that was Svetlana Doneva at the 2015 Mining Indaba in the mother city, Cape Town. Kristen, the Mining Indaba has been in the past criticized as being a talk shop. Have there been any tangible impact from the Indaba in the past?
Well, you know, it's difficult for us to say as the media. I mean, as you will know, we're pretty much closed off from a lot of the sessions that actually happened. So a lot of those meaty discussions were actually excluded from. But one can imagine that, you know, deals are discussed and perhaps later finalized. But what we do know is, as you're saying, the biggest, most important players in this industry make their time to be at this Indaba. So surely this is more than a talk shop.
Well, the thing is, I always feel that it changes the economy of South Africa. For 3 days, everything goes to Cape Town. Of course, if you're there, you get really overworked. But tell me about mining in a neighboring country as well, Namibia. I've always associated them with diamonds and uranium. Now, I didn't know there were such serious mining, gold mining projects on the go there.
Perhaps it's because, I mean, the country only has 2 gold mines. But we hear that a Sweden-based jeweler, Kristallen, is looking to set up a gold refinery in Namibia. At this point, discussions are still ongoing as to where the refinery will be located. They still need to reach agreement about a license. Interestingly enough, the statement did say that if there is not enough gold in Namibia, they're going to seek to import the gold and refine it in Namibia. So they'll be competing with Rand Refinery, which is based in Germiston here in South Africa. And I suppose it's a good African story. We've been talking about beneficiation, and why not? I mean, if you listen to the mines minister or the finance minister of Zimbabwe, he'll tell you that when you export raw materials, you are specializing in poverty.
Thank you, Christine Mundo. Amazing how the more I think I know about continent Africa, the more I find out there's so much more ground to cover. A graphite discovery story in Mozambique, phosphate and gold in Namibia. Who knows what else? But next up, we have Christy Cole Popola, who takes us through some of the highlights of the week from West Africa to wrap up Africa Business News. Christy Cole, what we have always suspected has happened finally. Nigerians' elections have been officially postponed from the 14th of this month to March the 20th. It is not the first time, though, that national elections are postponed in Nigeria, but this time there are conflicting explanations as to why the deferment was necessary. Does this at all hold any implication for the country's economy? And what is the position of the Nigerian constitution on this?
True, it's not the first time Nigeria has postponed its national elections. Elections were indeed postponed in 2011. That was the last presidential poll. But then the Nigerian constitution allows a 90-day window from elections, a possible rerun between the expiration of one tenure to the swearing in of another elected public office holder. So the shift in polls is not in any way illegal. But then that's not to say that the implications are not far-reaching. While proponents of the polls shift have reasonably argued it would leave room for more Nigerians to collect their permanent voter cards and also give the multinational joint task force sufficient time to contain Boko Haram, ensuring that Nigerians in the northeast are not disenfranchised. Analysts have listed effects ranging from economics to the psychological, some even saying it's political interference. This may suggest some victory for the insurgents. Investors may continue to sit on the sidelines as the poll shift suggests more uncertainty. This also may mean that the political political campaign window has to be extended. Otherwise, candidates who were until now perceived to be favored may begin to lose momentum, and then the until now conquered political apathy may take center stage if the campaigns are halted. Implications and possible scenarios abound, and developments over the next few weeks will indeed be interesting. Now, while international and local bodies have rejected the idea of the poll shift, all are unanimous in their calls for free and fair elections as the new dates, March 28 and April 11, approach.
Let's talk about Ghana now. Of course, the Black Stars suffering that painful defeat at the hands of their cocoa-producing neighbors, Ivory Coast. But I'm more intrigued by the reports of gold mines that are considering to sell some of their assets there. Aside from the drop in the bullion price, which could be a factor, the power situation appears to be the major issue. We know that Ghana has been talking of some emergency arrangements to solve its power problems. Is it making any headway at all?
Ghana's government may be making a headway at the policy level, but with the reality on ground, not much progress appeared to have been made. Worse still, impact has moved from the small companies to the huge ventures. I mean, if a Dangote cement company in Ghana could voice its concerns over increased cost of production due to power, with analysts predicting expensive cement or even the scarcity of it, then one is left to imagine what the smaller companies are experiencing as Ghana now rations power, shedding load. Factories are off electricity for 48 hours and homes are in blackout for at least 24 hours at a go. Even the Chamber of Mines is not left out of the heat, as it is now asking the government to lower taxes on diesel, which it uses to fuel its generators. As a result of erratic power, coupled with the drop in price of bullion, which has lost about 34% since reaching a record high in 2011, we hear mining companies in Ghana are now considering selling some of the gold mines. Latest of the emergency power measure is Ghana's deal with Turkish company Car Power International to bring in 2 power barges that are expected to ease the power crisis. But then government must pay $100 million into an escrow account before the deal is sealed. But at the moment, Ghana cannot afford that and cannot even issue a bond until April.
That takes us to our trivia of the week. Stay with Africa Business News. For which 2 countries, we ask, celebrate a holiday not on February 10th, but on February 11th. One holiday is called Armed Forces Day and the other is called Youth Day. You could say that both these countries are in West Africa, Christy Cole, although one is considered more Central African by some. So, should you be able to give me an answer here, or are you going to be looking for more clues? I'm not having any clues left for you.
I'll give you 2, in fact, Liberia and Cameroon.
Okay, you know your West Africa, Liberia and Cameroon. First, Liberia, which, if you recall, is a state founded in the early 1800s, mainly by freed slaves from the United States, modeling itself around the United States, of course, which is why the capital, Monrovia, is named after the 5th president of the U.S., James Monroe. However, on this Armed Forces Day, the country celebrates the founding of the Armed Forces of Liberia. Cameroon, on the other hand, celebrates on February 11th the National Youth Day to persuade the youth of Cameroon to embrace education, sports and other cultural and creative activities instead of violence. So, a happy Armed Forces Day to the people of Liberia and a happy Youth Day to those in Cameroon. Stay tuned to CNBC Africa. Until next week, kwaherini.